some people are waiting for the link.
Okay. We'll just let everybody click through here. And let me go here. And here. Here. So I guess my question to Jesse is, do we need any links, or are you going to send them over, or how did you want to do that? No, you're still muted. We can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm putting them in the chat right now.
Oh, you are? Okay, good, good. Okay, thanks. I'm just going to drag this over here, open up the chat. All right, now we're cooking. We'll get everything ready to go here, folks, and then we can get started today. So, Jocelyn.
Yep.
Okay, we've got both of the links for Abide and the group are in the chat right now. So if everybody wants to go there and take a look at that, you know, those are something that you can have either open now or, you know, after we've had a chance to communicate and hang out with Jesse here for a while. And Jocelyn, what time we got here? 2:04. We usually start about 7 minutes after. Okay. We'll give everybody about 3 more minutes, and then we're going to get started here. And in the 3 minutes here, Coach Papa, we've never heard of you before here on our mastermind. Can you introduce yourself here, please?
I'm a friend of Jim Bannon's.
Right
Jim
on.
and I have known each other for many, many years.
Yeah.
He's been instrumental in helping me along the way in some things, and I've been a life coach and business coach for the last 15 years,
Awesome.
and shared a lot of my strengths and weaknesses with him. I'm a farm boy from Western Nebraska.
Yeah.
Retired military. I could go on, an inspirational speaker, published author. I make a difference in people's lives at any opportunity I have.
Awesome.
And
That's
everything
awesome.
I do is branded through Coach Papa. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, it's Coach Papa. On Facebook, it's Coach Papa.
You're Coach Papa. Right on. That's awesome.
Recording in progress.
So,
all right. I'm sure we're going to have a few people rolling in here. So what I'm going to do is I'll let Jocelyn do the introduction. Maybe I'll chime in with a couple of things, and then we're going to kick it off with Jesse here. So.
All right. Well, as I am thinking about what we are doing and, going deeper into why are we doing what we are doing, and this came to mind, and I want to share this with you. I hope you can see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you all see my screen?
We can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so let me play it.
There's no sound if there's supposed to be.
There's no sound. So, okay. So anyway, so that's the intro, and that's the vision, to be able to open doors and building communities globally so we can serve the God that we want to serve. And we have Jesse today, who will be introducing his program that I think it's relevant for our mission and vision to be able to impact so many lives. Anyway, Randy.
Yeah. Well, and
Go
we were
for it.
talking just before we jumped on here, and we were talking about a lot of the technical things as we go along. But I really think for all of us, we realize that there's a bigger purpose in what's your why. And that's why it's important to have Jesse on here to, share about Abide leadership, where he's come from, where he's been, and, how can we, transform ourselves, but also, be a transformational force and influence, in our communities, in our families, with our friends. So what we want to do is have Jesse come in here. We met through another mutual Facebook group. I appreciate that. We had a chance to do call it, whether it's an interview. I thought it was like a corner, a bit of a chat there. So anyways, Jesse, I know you're driving and I know that your mic works excellent there. So what we want to do is have you share, if you need us to go to your website while you're talking and go through that, or your Facebook group, just give us that cue and we'll share the screen.
I appreciate that. No, and again, and I appreciate the time. I completely agree with you. I feel like really what's happening here is I feel like God is doing something in and through business. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of what I'm seeing, and I think a lot of what people are feeling, is that there is this call or this pull, this drawing, not only to believers to come together, but also I feel like God wants to do something in and through what it is that we're doing in business, and how we work together, how we work with each other, how we build community. And so really that was kind of the genesis of why my wife and I, we started Abide Leadership. It came out of this call, this understanding that God wanted to have business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, people that were doing business, but living sometimes potentially inauthentically, because we were separating our faith, right, from our business. And really, God wants all of that together, right? Because we have the ability to do something that is unique and really is impactful. And honestly, it's all done through service.
So when we talked the last time, we went, quite a bit into depth about, from the leadership and the things you've done, from the, taking the Strengths Finder and using that to utilize to find out, of course, what our personal strengths are and so on. And then it really is, how can you be a servant using those particular strengths, right?
Yes.
So if you could get into that, kind of leading into it, I guess probably number one is why take a Strengths Finder course of some type or quiz.
Yeah.
And then what do you learn from it? And then, of course, how do you apply that? So if you could kind of run us through that, flow.
Yeah, definitely. So when I became a certified strengths coach, one of the things that I saw this need to really identify these elements, these pieces of who we are, but from a perspective of not only from the Bible, right, but also to speak to this kind of concept of identity, and really what that means is that. So people will take a personality assessment. Okay, so like Strengths Finder, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, right? We've all taken them. I'm sure most of us have taken multiple ones, right, at some point in time. And so what happens, or a lot of what it is that I've seen, is people will get these assessment results, and what will happen is they will use those, and then they will adopt those as their identity. And so I hear people say sometimes, right, well, I'm an Enneagram 8, so this is why I do what I do, or I'm an ENFP on Myers-Briggs, or I'm a this on DISC, right, or this and Working Genius, or whatever. And what happens is that we start to take the tools, right, that the personality assessment has given us, and we put those up on a pedestal. And so now we start to identify not as who we actually are, but with the tool that's really supposed to be used, right, in service. So we're actually using the tool that we've been given in an ineffective or an inappropriate manner. And really our identity, right, is rooted in whose we are. So everything that I wanted to do and I felt called to do was to redefine that, right? To bring an element of clarity to identity. And so we go back to scripture, right? So we are a son or a daughter of the king, right? And we are an heir to God. So that's Galatians. And it's because of that, right, that we have been reborn, right? We've been spiritually reborn for above. We have been called. We have been sanctified, right? We have been renewed. We are considered a child of God. And because of that, we are given rights and permissions, right, through faith in Christ Jesus. And so then we take that and we add this to Romans. So in Romans 12, it talks about God has apportioned a specific measure of faith, right? And that is to be given to your purpose, and that's to be walked out in service. So for me, strengths has a purpose and a plan. And everything that we do, all of these personality assessments, it's not just these tools that we understand. They're not just for use for our personal gain, but really it's to be done in service, right? For other people. So as I walk in my purpose and I walk in what it is that I've been given to help others, I'm actually doing that in service. And so as a servant leader, I'm walking into and using the tools that I've been given to help other people, to help those around me, not only to give them something and to be there and to lift them up and to do what it is that I've been asked to do and called to do, but also I grow the kingdom. I draw people closer to the Father. I illuminate for them what he's doing in their life and how he's speaking. So that's really the genesis, the understanding of strengths, is because I can, with this assessment, identify or help people identify these areas that they're gifted in and help them to use these tools, right, in an effective manner through service so that they can see how these tools are useful in their vocation, right, in their calling, in their ministry, in how they interact with people, how they work with people, how they form teams, right, how you become effective inside leadership, how you run your organization, how you run your company. And that's really why strengths. It gives me the ability to create a language in which people then have the ability to articulate what they've been given and how that operates.
Unmute myself. So when you're doing that, and I'll drill down into some details there because I like the big picture of what it is, whose we are. We've got the strengths there, and then how do we, quote, use them to serve others, right?
Yeah.
So within the strengths finder, is there like 3 strengths, 8 strengths, 25?
Yeah.
You give us some insight there.
It's great. It's a great question. So there's actually 34. So Gallup has identified 34 different strengths in 4 domains. So you have strategic thinking strengths, you have executing strengths, you have influencing strengths, and then you have relationship building strengths. And so each of these, of the 34, are broken up into those 4 domains. And really, they're useful in being able to articulate, like I said, why you do what you do. Mm-hmm. So for example, my top 5, my top 5 strengths, the ones that I use on a daily basis, they show up everywhere across the board. My top 5 are input, ideation, achiever, positivity, and what we call individualization. And really, that's just a way for me to be able to do what it is that I do. So input and ideation, they really work well together. Input is I'm always looking at things differently. So I'm always taking in what's around me. I'm helping people, again, asking good questions, clarifying things, and then helping people, organizations, myself, even come up with different ways of looking at things. Ideation is the same thing. So it helps me take in information and be able to then structure it and categorize it. I love books. And so I have a huge library, both in my office and at home, but I then have the ability, if somebody has a question or needs something, I can pull resources really quickly. So it helps me curate all of this knowledge that I have. Achiever is my engine. It's what I use to get things done. It's my checkbox on to-do list, right? It's like, okay, let's go. And as I do that, it gives me energy, right, to continue to do the next thing. Positivity is how I influence. It's part of my personality. It's my outlook on life. It's what I bring to a conversation. It's a level of energy that I bring, an enthusiasm to what it is that I'm doing. And then individualization allows me to really see the details of people. And it allows me to have a window of insight and wanting to get to know people for who they are, not as for any other reason, but I want to know you and I want to know how you operate. And I want to be able to see you as an individual, unique creation and not as a part in a larger thing, but really as this is just who you are. And I want to help you be able to see that as well. So really it's the beauty, right? There's 34 different ones. You have your top 5, which are again, your dominant strengths, the ones you use the most. You have your supporting strengths. And then at the bottom, it shows you what Gallup would call like your areas of lesser strength, or sometimes people call them weaknesses. And really, those aren't areas of necessarily weakness, but they're really areas of partnership, right? So they're areas that you get to determine and see how you can find people then partner with that are gifted in those areas. And so actually what we're doing is we're, as the saying goes, right, as the tide raises all ships. And so we're really through partnership and through effective use of this assessment and the outcome of that, building great teams, right? Having the right people at the table, understanding how people work, what they need, what they bring to the table, what it is that collectively people can do. And then it helps me to be able to see, again, all of the moving parts and pieces.
So a couple of things there we'll come back to there. But the one thing you mentioned there, just the most recently here, is about the team side of it there. So when you meet with people who are, let's say they're solo entrepreneurs, or they're just a startup type of thing, and they've never developed a team, how could this be used to help them develop the right team? Not just, right?
Yeah.
Can you go into that a little bit more? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that this allows you to do is basically it helps you to chart and see where you're gifted and in which areas you need help. And so at that point in time, as you're building a team, it helps you to pinpoint, these are my areas of genius, right? These are my zones of genius. We've heard that term before. So this is the areas that I'm gifted in. These are the areas that I'm not necessarily gifted in. So as I'm looking for people to bring on to my team, whether it's in direct relationship with me on like an executive team, or I'm looking to bring on people, personnel, assistants, right? Virtual assistants, secretaries, all of these things. I can look for these particular qualities. I can look for these particular things. I can ask specific questions, or I can even have people take the assessment, right? And as a front loading to maybe an interview. And then I know specifically, right? I know specifically what I'm looking for and what that person, what I want to bring to the table. And so now I can have really deep conversations with people and actually be able to set things up in a way that's built for success. So I don't have to go through a process necessarily of, okay, I hired somebody and I thought they were a good fit. And then, oh man, now they're not a good fit. And now what do I do? I know what I'm looking for. I have a set of almost standards in a sense that are non-negotiables for me. This is what I need this person to have, or qualities or skills that I need them to bring to the table in this particular area.
So then you built the team and you get it running there, and you know, maybe the wheels fall off, maybe they don't fall off type of thing. It's hard to say, right? But when you're using, you know, the principles that you have, okay, and you've gone through the Strengths Finder, you've built the team, you're starting to build a business. Let's say it's a startup. You're just starting out right now. It's an e-commerce business. It's whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
Right. So from what you've learned now, how does that apply to you growing personally and to growing your business and serving in your areas of strength? Like, how do you, what's the next step?
Yeah, so good. It really is. It's as we're looking at these areas, right? They transcend not just business, but their personal life as well. And so as I better understand the tools that I have and how I'm equipped, I'm better able to serve. I'm better able to serve my family. I'm better able to serve my friends. I'm better able to serve my local church community, right? If I'm plugged into one or whatever that looks like, I'm better able to serve my community as a whole. I'm better able to really be able to live into all that it is that I have and all that I've been given. And another area that it helps is that it really helps to be able to understand how not only effectively I work, but what it is that I need to be successful. And I think that's an area that we don't spend a lot of time with, right? Is this area of what do I need to be successful? What do I bring to the table, but how do I work effectively? A lot of times, and people that I talk to and have worked with, that's an area sometimes of struggle is I don't know how to articulate what exactly it is that I need to be effective. I have an idea or maybe a rough kind of outline, but I don't know how to bring it up and say, this is really what I need to be successful, or this is what I bring to the table. And really, this becomes a foundational piece, right? That now we then build off of. So as you're setting goals for yourself, you use your strengths to enable you to accomplish those goals. So I'm not setting goals that are arbitrary, that are like, well, if I hit it, that's great. Or if I don't, we'll figure it out next time, right? I'm actually setting goals with the language that means something to me, because these are who I am. These are the things that I use on a daily basis. These are the talents that I've been given. These are the tools that I have. And so as I set out a goal, I then structure it with this language involved. So now I know how I'm going to accomplish it. And then I build in ways in which to think about it of, okay, so if something goes wrong, if this goes off the rails, right? Like you said, it goes off the rails. I've already thought about that so that I know that if that happens, I know how to get it back on track, or I know how to fix it. I can utilize these particular strengths in this specific context to move this forward, to restructure, to reframe, to pause, right? And to be introspective if I need to, or whatever that is.
Right. So you touched on something there, and we'll come back to it here on success, because everybody's going to define success differently. And a lot of it, of course, leans over into immediately almost financial success that pops up there. But what I wanted to do is to have you talk a little bit about that. And one of the things that came to mind was when you're talking about this, finished a book by Paula White Cain, and she has a quote that's in there that money without a mission is materialism. And I thought it was such a good definition.
Good.
That you can wrap everything up in there, because so many people are, quote, pursuing money, that financial success. But in the end of it, you see people, in this case, a lot of times people just gather stuff up, right? They have things, right? They miss out all the other successes they can have and should have, really, ultimately, right? So
yes,
I think what I'm getting to here is on the success side, how do you determine your mission or your purpose? Because it's going to be based on your strengths and your beliefs. So how do we get there?
I love that. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just having a conversation with a multimillionaire the other day, and we were having a conversation, and he said something that was really profound to me. He's like, money. Honestly, money at this point in my life, he's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, it's not a thing. I don't even really care about it. He's like, it doesn't bring me joy. And it was really interesting, because he's saying that, and I'm going, I mean, it brings me a little bit of joy, and so it's just funny though, because it's all about perspective, right? If you have all of your material needs met, is money really what purpose now does it serve? And so we were having this conversation about being a steward of what the resources he has now, and he's like, the thing that gives me joy now, the thing that brings me fulfillment, is being able to sow into projects, into things, and see things that I don't control come to life.
Mhm.
and be able to be a part of advancing kingdom initiatives or this or that, or this cause or that cause. He's like, or whatever that is. He's like, that brings me such fulfillment and such joy. He goes, and that's actually legacy. He goes, it's not my house. It's not what I've left. It's not this other thing. He goes, it's actually the places that I've sown into things. And so I feel like, again, when we talk about purpose and mission, it's that same kind of a concept, right? We get, I think, mission and purpose confused. A lot of times, especially in organizations, people think that mission is my why. It's the thing that's the reason why I do things. And really, your why is your purpose, right? It's the thing that you have been given to help others, right? That's purpose. Mission is the what, okay? It's the what you're doing to fulfill that purpose, right? It's whatever that is. So the purpose of the organization, the mission of it, is what is actually the driver. It's the vehicle that's going out. It's taking you from here to there. It's whatever it is that you're accomplishing. It's the what. And inside of there, that thing that lives in between there is your how, right? And it's the action steps. It's the habits that you form. It's the way in which you're doing things, the processes and procedures you have inside your business that are allowing you to live in between, right? The why and the what. That you have as far as your organizational structure or even your personal structure, right? It's the habits that I form that allow me to live into my purpose and fulfill my mission. And so it really, it comes back to, again, stewarding well what it is that you've been given, understanding what you've been given, and then how do I steward that? And then how do I use all of that in service?
Right. So then that brings up, in my mind anyways, the next point. We have strengths, we have some weaknesses, right? We have a certain amount of time, there's only 24 hours in a day. We'll go back to stewarding then. So we're looking at whatever level of success we want in 5 areas of our life. We need to steward the time to get there. What's some effective ways, doesn't matter what level a person is at and who have you spoken to, how do they focus on different areas in their life? How are they stewarding their time and their talents / strengths to, achieve or succeed in those areas? So how do you steward time?
It's such a good question.
Yeah.
It really, it comes down to, again, like you said, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so one of the things that I work with people on, or with the conversations that I've had, is what is it that you're wanting to accomplish, and really looking at time as it is such a finite commodity. We are only given so much of it, right, every day. And so whether you have employees and they're trading their time, their life, right, for a wage, and you're stewarding that, or whether you are the employee and you have a finite amount of time, right? It really is, it's understanding, when we can understand our purpose and be solid in that and be able to solidify that. Now I understand what I'm supposed to do with my time. And I can then prioritize the things that are in line with my purpose and my mission. And so it's not that I don't do things, right, that aren't in line with that, but I'm very, very now specific and selective on the things that I'm doing to fulfill those pieces. And part of it could be, right, during my workday, I'm very selective and very specific on what I'm doing here, here, and here. I'm time blocking, or I'm being very strategic on this initiative or this meeting or what this is or what this is. And when I'm with my family, I'm very strategic and very specific on using that time wisely. I remove distractions. I do this, I do that, right? Because that's really where the enemy wants to attack us the most, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as business owners, especially as executives, especially as family men and women, people that are being pulled in multiple areas. He wants to get us distracted. He wants to get at our time, right? Because if we become ineffective with how we manage our time and our relationships with God, with our family, with our spouse, with our community, then we get off base. And if he can disrupt that in any sense, now we get all messed up. and we become ineffective.
So I'm going to add on to that. So to make sure we don't have distractions and we have focus, you alluded to doing time blocking, which to me talks about scheduling your priorities. It allows you to say no to people because obviously there's opportunities that come up for everybody. And, everybody on the call is going to say, yeah, I've got opportunities. However, with that purpose and the why, and even obviously the time that you're allotted on a daily basis, you can say no to it. I guess the question then is, how do you structure it? And then how do you determine what to say no to? How do you align it?
That's such a good question, because it really is, it's unique to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what works for me may not work for somebody else. And really that's the benefit of having somebody in your corner, right? That's the benefit of having somebody to talk to, a coach, a mentor, right? To bounce those ideas off and around and really be able to help them maybe see things that they don't particularly see, right? When we create healthy boundaries, we have the ability to say no to things and to people. And it's not that those things are bad, right? But when I understand, again, my alignment, and I have my purpose and my mission and my action and my habits, and I'm working those things, when something good comes, but it's not the right time, I'm able to say no to it for right now. Maybe it's no for a season. Maybe it's no for 2 weeks, right? Maybe it's no until I get this other thing done. But I have the ability to say no with grace. And I can also say yes to things that do align, that are ready. And maybe I want to say yes to it, but it's not the right time. I can determine that and be able to say, okay, it's no for right now, but it's yes in a month, right? When I have these X, Y, and Z, these things taken care of. I also then have the ability through prayer to be able to take these things right back and say, Lord, these are the opportunities that have been presented to me, right? This is what it is I've heard. This is where I'm supposed to go. This is what I'm supposed to be working on. And I know that, but here's this opportunity. I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to ask for direction here. And then I'm going to pray and I'm going to seek your voice. I'm going to seek to hear, right, what it is that you're speaking to me, what it is that you're giving me direction on. And whether that's through the Holy Spirit, whether that's through another person, right? Whether that's through a relationship, whether that's through the word, right? It's this piece too that we have to have in order to be able to do that. So Charles, the name's I'm gonna miss it. It'll come back to me in a second. Charles Swindoll talks about these 4 things, and I love them. They're called the 4 disciplines, right? So solitude, silence, surrender, and simplicity. And when we can live into those type of understandings, right, we then have the ability to see as these things come up where they fit. Because I'm quiet when I need to be. I have simplicity in my schedule. So I have the ability to move things as I need to, right? We time block. Sometimes we time block every minute of every day, every second. There's no room for contemplation. There's no room for me to think. There's no room for me to do things like that because, I have this meeting, and then I have this meeting, and then I have this thing, and then I'm working on this project, right? We think that time blocking equates to every minute for a project. No, it might be 30 minutes I'm going to put on my calendar and I'm just going to reflect, right? I'm just going to take 30 minutes of kind of meditating in a sense on something and thinking deeply about it or going that direction. So again, that speaks to knowing your strengths and knowing what you need and what you bring to the table. So it really is, again, it's painting a big picture and having all of the pieces to the puzzle.
So you brought up something right there about the quiet time. And I would, I'm not going to assume everybody here, but people can be a workaholic at some point in their life. They're a workaholic, especially being an entrepreneur or starting something up, right?
So easy.
So from my perspective, if I don't carve out that time, if it isn't allotted, work just goes right through it all the time. It just fills it all up. Whereas if there's an allotment of time, whatever it is, morning, noon, or night, that gives you that space, like you said, pray, reflection, looking for answers, whatever that might be. It gives you that time. And I wanted to ask more of a granular question now, whether you're a startup, big business, or whatever, what are some tactical things to do to find whether it's a coach, a mentor, accountability partner, those types of things? What are some ways that to be effective and choose the right people? Because not everybody's going to be the right coach or mentor at that particular time in your life. So
good. Yes. And I completely agree. Right. And to highlight one thing that you said just a second ago, what happens is when we too in business and in life, when we overextend ourselves, we sacrifice somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And especially for those of us that have families, that's the first thing that gets put on the altar, right? I will bring my work home and I feel like I'm doing what's right because I'm finishing this thing when actually I'm sacrificing the thing that's probably the most important. And so that healthy boundary for me, because I've stepped on it more times than I care to count. For me, it's one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is really, really setting those firm boundaries that when you leave work, you leave work. Yeah. And unless it is on fire, right? And there's casualties that are going to be assumed, it's not important. And it can be done the next day, right? It can be prioritized at the top of the priority list. When you wake up 7 a.m. or whenever you do this, you're good. It really, it's finding somebody and seeking somebody out. It really is, for a lack of a better term, it's kind of sometimes trial and error, right? I think too, it's really being intentional about knowing what it is that you're looking for, right? I need somebody, I need help in this area. I need help in this area. I'm looking for this specific thing. And then finding, whether you are searching for people or you ask questions, right? Or you have people that you're in relationship with, whether they're in alignment, like laterally, right? So I'm friends with the CEO of another company, and I ask him, what's working for him or somebody he's talking to, or I know people that are in the coaching space, and you start to just dig in a little bit and get to know who those people are. And again, you schedule time and get to know those people, and then ask really deep questions, right, of the people. Because if I'm going to do relationship with somebody, if I'm going to invite them into my space, right, and into a sphere in my life, I want to know that you're not here just to give me the same advice that I'm going to get in my echo chamber, right? I want to know that you're going to speak into my life in such a manner that I'm ready to receive that, right? But also that you're going to do that in truth and in love. So I'm building relationships there that I'm going to trust you, that you are going to tell me things that I may not want to hear, but it's what I need to hear. Mm-hmm. And then also being honest with myself that I'm ready to hear that.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, that you have to be open enough to accept that, and it isn't criticism. It's just pointing things out in your life that we just don't see. Right?
Yeah.
Right? You did bring up something there, and it was talking about being intentional. Okay. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've got the prayer there. So being intentional, what do you find allows a person to be more intentional? Like I know for myself, it could be journaling and so on, but to be more intentional, you really, again, have to come to a point of focus. So what are you seeing, Jesse? What helps?
So the first thing is to minimize distractions. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking to you on my phone, but our phones are such a distraction. They're such a distraction. If you ever want to really read something kind of gross, go look up the statistics, the average statistics on how many times a person picks up their cell phone every day. How much time the average person spends on YouTube every day, or over the year. How much time people spend on social media, right? If you just want to know your own habit, if you have an iPhone, especially, turn on screen time and really look at that data and wrestle with it for a minute. We are so distracted by everything. We work really hard. We want to come home. We want to unplug, right? We want to just I want to relax. I want to do this or whatever. And so we turn not to our families, not to sometimes the things that we need to, but we turn on a show, right? We turn on this, we get on social media, and then we've got scroll hole, right? And before you know it, you've got hours of time that have literally been wasted. My wife and I, like, one of the things we love to do sometimes is we'll sit and watch a show. And Netflix is the worst thing because the episode ends and one begins without almost enough time for you to form a rational thought of, I should probably stop, right? And walk away. And before you know it, you've binged 4 or 5 episodes. It's like 1 a.m. and you're like, what am I doing with my life right now? This is a bad choice. So it's setting a boundary. Okay. So it's like, babe, tonight we're only going to watch 1 episode. I know we're going to want to watch more, but we're only going to watch this 1 episode and then we're going to bed. Unless it's after 9:30, then we're not starting it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like I said, it's setting up those things, understanding that we're distracted. And so we got to minimize those things. We have a rule in my house that we really try to abide by, that in the evenings, our phones are off. Like, they're on, but they're away. And if there's an emergency, people know how to get a hold of us. But for the most part, we try to put them away. We have a meal as a family every single night. We sit down at the table, we have meaningful conversations. And again, it's a way in which we can connect and try to do those things. But again, we have to get away from the things that are distracting us, right? When we're working, I talk to people all the time and I'm like, hey, if you have more than 5 tabs open, you're being ineffective. I don't care if you have a thing on whatever, okay? You're being ineffective. That's too many things open, even in your mind, right? To do effectively. It's all of those things. It's, again, looking at your habits and deciding which ones are ones that I want to continue to foster and which ones need an overhaul.
Right. So then, starting out, I don't care if anybody applies it to their business, to their relationships, to their family life, to their dating, whatever it might be, you've got your strengths there. What do you take a look at doing, to fulfill yourself, but to fulfill that purpose type of thing? Like, again, I'm getting back to more of the details and the nitty gritty, but if we don't get that, we miss it. It's like there are certain things that we do need to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the distractions is a big thing, number one, right? As far as, getting to the place wherever you want to be going there. So you've eliminated the distractions, you've got some focus there. And, we talked a little bit about, being close to God and moving your focus there and realizing whose you are. Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that we can achieve that?
Yeah, that's really good. One of the things is really thinking about or taking a look at how we think about things. Mm-hmm. So mindset is a really, really big and important piece. And it's how we look at all of the things that are going on around us, right? So as an educator for a really long time, more years than I care to admit right now, mindset came on the scene and everybody in the education space gravitated to it. So Carol Dweck's foundational work, right? Growth and fixed mindset. Yeah. But it's really pivotal because when you look at how we operate as a human being, we fall into these categories of limiting beliefs and really, can I do this or am I not capable of doing this? And it really speaks to when we come under stress or we come into opposition or we come into different viewpoints and ways of thinking, how do we handle those things? And so again, it's minimizing distractions, but then also having the ability to think about things and wrestling with, maybe I have a mindset that isn't working for me. And how do I fix that, right? How do I identify the areas of trouble in my life that I need to work on? And then doing the work. So I think, again, identifying it is one thing, and then giving yourself the grace and the space to be able to do the work, right? And being honest about the progress of that. And that's where accountability is great, right? So getting into a relationship with people that are on the same journey as you, that are willing to be transparent, right? They're going to walk shoulder to shoulder with you. So whether that's, again, some people call them like discipleship groups or life groups or whatever that is. Again, you can do it as a business group. but again, people that are on the same journey, walking in the same lane, walking on the same path that you can do life with, right? Because community is so important. We are not built to be in isolation. We are not built to walk this alone. And so many people that I talk to, that's what the first thing they do. I always talk to them like, well, who are your friends? Who do you associate with, right? What kind of relationships do you have? And people are like, well, I only have like maybe one or two friends, and we only talk to them like here and there. And that's part of the problem, right? Is we think we have to do all of this. I have to shoulder all the burden, right, by myself. And we don't. And especially as a man, right? Women are, I think, a little bit sometimes, not always, right? So I don't want to be like, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Well, it's not stereotypical, right?
Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't want to be stereotypical, but a lot of times women specifically, they have an easier time sometimes building relationships with other women. It's not always true. But as a man specifically, sometimes it's harder for us to build relationships, right? There's a lot of things that go into play there. But really, that's where we have the ability to walk in step with other people. And there's something about deep male friendships or deep female friendships that give me something that I have the ability to get from that I won't from my spouse. I love my wife dearly. Okay, I love my wife dearly. But there's something about my friendships that I have with my male friends that they have the ability to speak into my life exactly where I am and tell me and call me on the things that I know I'm not doing how I should be. But they have the ability to speak it and tell me pinpoint accuracy. Right here, buddy. It's right here. You know it. I know it, but I'm going to call it out to you and we're going to talk about it for a minute. And there have been times where my wife has brought the same thing to my attention and I, for whatever reason, I don't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. And so I'll dismiss it. I'll be like, no, babe, that's not really it. It's something else. It's this or it's that. It's whatever. And then somebody else calls it out into my life and I'm like, you're right. And now I have to come back and apologize, right, to my wife and say, babe, you were right. I didn't, and that's hard sometimes because again, we have pride. Yeah. But this is why relationship is so important because it allows us to put that aside and set it down and say, hey, you know what? I'm a human. You're a human. I need some help in this area and be open and vulnerable and transparent and allow that, to happen with somebody else. It's so powerful. Again, and whether that's with coaching, right? Whether that's with, again, deep friendships, whether that's with, again, whatever it is, whoever you're walking in life with, it's just there. We need that.
So, and we'll wind up here. What about Abide Leadership and the Facebook group? Tell us more about those two, like your role with Abide Leadership and the group that's attached and working with that. So let's start with Abide. Tell us about Abide Leadership.
So Abide Leadership is our mentoring and it kind of like it's coaching, but it's really more mentoring company. And what we do is exactly what we talked about and shared with here. It's we come alongside people and we meet them where they are. And we help them to identify these areas in their life and help them build habits and help them structure things and help them give language to things and identify things. And really it comes out of this understanding of building servant leaders and really what that means. How do we become servant leaders? How do I serve others well? How do I lead others well? And that's really the heart of Abide Leadership. And so it's what we do. And whether that's, again, small organizations, large organizations, individuals, it really doesn't matter. We want to be a blessing and we want you to be able to see how you've been created, right? How you've been uniquely crafted and what it is that you're here to do under the understanding of I'm here to serve and I want to be the best servant leader that I can be. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so go ahead.
No. And so how do you get, started with Abide Leadership? Was there, what happens? What's the starting point?
Yeah. So we have a website. It's abideleadership.com, www.abideleadership.com. We have some information up there about some services that we offer and things like that. We have a free Facebook community where we share a lot of information. We do some coaching. We do some different things and trainings in there. And so you can find that on Facebook. It's, I think it's facebook.com/groups/Abide Leadership. We have social media channels where we're posting things all the time. And then we hold different free event master classes. So this week, matter of fact, tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, we're doing one on how to foster a biblical growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, our job and our goal is to be a blessing. Like, we want to help people in whatever way that we can. And we want to be able to meet them where they are, and to be able to help them hear what God has for them, to be able to identify those things that he's asking them to do, and really to live into their calling and their purpose, right? And what they've been uniquely designed and placed where they are to be able to do.
Okay. Well, I encourage everybody to head over to the Facebook group to start with, for sure. And, abideleadership.com. It's easy to find. And Jesse, as far as reaching out to you, is it easiest through Facebook or Twitter where you hang out, or what's a good way to reach out to you?
It's a great question. I hang a lot out on Facebook. Again, social media. I'm connected there. I try not to spend a lot of time scrolling, but that's a great place to reach us. You can reach me through the website. My email address is my first and last name. So Jesse my last name, right, at abideleadership.com. And really, like I said, any of those avenues is a great place to get a hold of us.
Perfect. Sounds good. We don't have much time for a Q&A, but if anybody has any specific questions, if you wanted to just unmute yourself